where I'd like to start is if you could just give me a little background into who you are and where you're from and sort of your journey into education.
So when I was a teenager, I grew up in New York City, and I went to Brown University, and I studied psychology because I wanted to know like why people did things. I I was very curious about why did things happen, why people behaved a certain way, and I decided to double major in education and psychology because I didn't want to be like a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I wanted to be able to teach, and I wanted to use the psychology to teach. When I was in elementary school, in our school we didn't have substitute teachers, and so we had when a teacher was absent, we would get distributed. Our class would be broken up, and we would go to different classes. And I would always ask to go to the younger grades. I just always liked helping little kids.
Yeah, yeah. So you sort of touched upon how you as a student in elementary school, was it, sort of always yearned to be a teacher, right? This is sort of the beginning of me, through a series of questions, will sort of pick at your philosophy when it comes to approaching education. Could you sort of delve into a little bit more of how those experiences as a younger student through elementary school, through high school, through middle school, and even through college, how that sort of influenced how you approach being an educator?
Okay. So I went to BBMS, the Bilingual Bicultural Mini School, because I'm Puerto Rican. My first language was Spanish, and when I went to elementary school, I only knew Spanish. So I was lucky enough to go to a school that they taught me how to read and write in both languages, English and Spanish. So I became bilingual, and it was a very homogenous environment. All my teachers were Puerto Rican, all my classmates, the majority of my classmates were Puerto Rican. That school was a place that I learned so much about being Puerto Rican and just kind of like, who am I, and what country am I from, and just the language and the culture. I happen to be identified as gifted, and I was selected to participate in this program. I had to take a test to get into this program called Prep for Prep, and which was preparation for preparatory school. So this was during fifth grade that I was identified, and at the end of fifth grade, when I was accepted, that summer after fifth grade, during sixth grade, and then the summer after sixth grade, I was in extra school. So I would go to school during the summer, and then Wednesdays and Saturdays during sixth grade, I was in extra school. And I remember crying when I had like long division, like this long. Why do I have to be smart? Why? And it was just a lot of work because they wanted to get me ready to go into a private school. And so I was accepted into the Dalton School, which is this like hoity-toity New York private school, similar to ASL. And I remember being there, and so all of a sudden I went from being in a homogenous environment to one of the only Afro-Latinas. Actually, the only Afro-Latina. I was one of two Puerto Ricans. So I went from being in a class of 30 kids, 25, 30 kids, all Puerto Rican, majority Puerto Rican. And now I was one of 100 kids, 110, whatever it was, in my class at Dalton. And I was also a scholarship kid, and I also lived in the Bronx, and Dalton was in Manhattan, and I had a very thick accent, Spanish accent. So I went from being very, very comfortable to very uncomfortable because I was different. looking back, like I hated Dalton. I was there from 7th to 12th grade. I hated Dalton because it was hard being like different. When you're an adolescent, you want to be, with everybody else. And looking back at the time, I felt like I hated it because, like all these kids have things and I don't have it. But when I became an adult and reflected on that time, what was difficult for me, what made it extra difficult was the adults. The adults, my teachers, I was invisible to them, or if I was visible to them, it was to kind of, one way or another, give me the message that I wasn't enough, or that, like it was a privilege for me to be there, and, very much reminding me, oh, you're the scholarship kid. Like when it was time to apply for college, my college counselor, and I had gone to visit colleges, and I said that I wanted to go to Brown. I really loved it. That's a reach for you, honey. I think you should apply somewhere else. And I was like, oh, okay. And I applied anyway, and I got in, and I was like, oh, look at that. That's an acceptance. Wow. So that experience was, when I became an educator, I decided that I wanted to be who I needed in school. So that's why I try to be here in ASL. I try to be that teacher that I needed, somebody that I could talk to, somebody that could just be like, it just would accept me, because I didn't have that at Dalton. I went to Brown, and Brown was good. Brown was a good experience because Brown has a lot of people from a lot of different places. But I do remember, like a kid telling me that I was there filling a quota, and so, like the microaggressions didn't stop, and they just... So when I returned to teach, when I went back to my elementary school, I wanted to be inspirational to my students in terms of like, I came from where you are, and look how far I've gotten, and you can get there through education. That's a key that will open doors for you. So most of my career has been in public education in order to kind of be like that person, to be like, yeah, you're smart, let's do this, and then I kind of I decided to become a special educator because I was a general educator, but in my class, I was teaching elementary school, and in my class, I had so many different types of learners, and I didn't really know how to help them in the best way. So I decided to go back and get my master's in special ed. And then when I came here to ASL, this has been really, I was hesitant at first because I was like, what are kids in ASL going to need from me? What can I, what can I inspire them? Those are the thoughts that I thought. What can I inspire in them? And then that's when I remembered that, I said, oh, okay, let me be that person that I needed when I was in high school.
So again, you sort of ended that on a note that was reminiscent of the fact that a huge part of your job has to do with building connections with students. I'd just like to show you a video really quick.
Okay.
I asked a few students to come together and film a video, just sort of giving me a little bit of pre-insight as to what your impact truly is.
Okay. My eyes are watering already.
This is like, these are 5 students that each have a different connection to you. We'll play the video but we'll edit it, and here you go.
So Miss Cruz, I met her, I guess, two and a bit years ago now when she first joined ASL. I was an AO student, so accommodations only student. And although she's not like my technical SLD advisor, she's had a great impact on, I guess, the joy around school, the positive energy around school. She runs karaoke club, as well as runs so many other things. She has great vibes. She's always there to help her SLD students as well, and all the other SLD students within SLD. I think that she's really helped me when I'm taking my tests, as well as helped me on math projects as well. I remember last year I had to borrow her massive rubber duck, which is an outrageous statement to kind of say. But overall, Miss Cruz has been a wonderful contribution to, I guess, my high school career, as well as the high school careers of so many other people within this community.
Oh, Mr.
Cruz
President.
is probably one of the most inspirational people I've met. She makes sure that every single student feels welcome, and one of the reasons she chose to be a teacher is to make sure students feel like they have someone they can talk to about everything. I think that's so inspirational because every single person that she meets loves her right away. And she speaks her opinion, she always helps you, and she makes sure that you know that you're not alone. And in high school with everything going on, that's really important. And she's probably one of the most caring people I've met. And I think that's something that's really important to have in the high school. And she takes that role really seriously and makes sure that her door is open to anyone.
Miss Cruz, I think she's one of my favorite teachers. She's such a nice person, and she always makes me feel like so welcome and so happy whenever I see her because she's got such a great energy.
I think Miss Cruz is sort of like, she's one of those people where it's like the unspoken second function of school. I think like social development. I think that that's really where she excels. You know, inclusion is not really a choice in her room, and I think that she's had a really palpable impact on the dynamic of the SLD core and the SLD community as a whole. Very positive. I love Miss Cruz.
Yeah, so I think Miss Cruz definitely has an impact on both the teachers and the students at ASL. I think that she always is there just to listen to everyone's problems, not gonna lie. And she explains her office as Grand Central Station, which is just like showing the magnitude of her impact and how many people come and go from her office every day. Like I've once saw like 10 people in her office at one time, which was a bit crazy, but you know, she's lit.
Thanks, Noah. Aww.
I wanted to do that video mostly because, well, I wanted to sort of get some insight for myself about who you are.
Yeah, because
from
you
a
and I have
student-
not really interacted.
Yeah, no. About who you are as from a student perspective, but also to sort of back up what I feel like I was going to hear today about this sort of philosophy of being there for students in a way that wasn't present for you. What do those perspectives mean to you? Just sort of hearing that.
You know, so being a teacher is like one of those things that, just like being a mom, it's one of those like thankless jobs. It's like, you know, people just do it, and hearing a thank you is like all teachers love to teach, you know. Well, most teachers love to teach, but hearing thank yous it's infrequent, you know. But it's as you saw my eyes water, and my eyes are still watering because it's so it confirms for me that I'm doing the right thing for kids. You know, because sometimes I feel like maybe I'm not, you know, like maybe I'm not giving them what they need because I'm not like teaching them, you know, like whatever, metaphysics or, you know, like something super grand. But it's nice to be affirmed that to confirm the fact that I know that what I'm doing is impacting kids. Like, you know, being in high school is tough. Being a teenager is tough. It is not an easy thing. You know, ASL is a hard place to be because there's just a lot going on. It's very rigorous, and the social piece can be a little cutthroat sometimes. So yeah, I'm definitely like there was a superhero called Underdog before, and he was a dog and he had a big U on his chest. he always like fought for the underdog, and so I just feel like, you know, everybody at some point is going to be the underdog, and I'm like, okay, you know, like, I see you, like, you need help, let's get a one up on whatever is going on, or even just a vent, or just tell me, you know, like, let me just let you know, because parents are putting pressure on you guys, teachers are putting pressure on you guys, and so, you know, as a learning specialist, I feel like I'm here. I don't have to grade anybody, but I am definitely here to help get through the emotional development that's happening during those fun teenage years.
I'd like to sort of branch out from that last question and bring back another quote that you provided to the Standard.
Okay.
This was in an article a year ago.
I've been interviewed a lot.
Yeah, you have. You're a very popular person. This is from an article a year ago, and you comment on social media here. You describe social media as a rabbit hole, and you said that being plugged in all the time, it adds another layer of pressure that I don't think kids need. Social media is just kind of generic. It's not tailored to anyone in particular. How would you say that affects the student dynamic nowadays? You can also sort of harken back to when you were a student, when like obviously social media wasn't around. And in terms of what the world is like right now, obviously we have a conflict going on in the Eastern Mediterranean, right? How do you think that sort of contributes to the dynamic and the social dynamic that you were mentioning earlier? And what happens after you see students interacting, right? And they're influenced by social media, and that does affect the social dynamic. What is that to you as an educator and someone who connects with these very students?
You know, it's social media can be a useful tool in terms of like disseminating information to lots of people. So social media can be positive in that aspect of being able to put out more information and giving people a platform who may not have a platform. So that can be the useful part. But for kids, for teenagers, so you guys you're all growing and you're super self-conscious, and everyone in ASL, actually not only ASL, every teenager in every high school has anxiety. Anxiety, I like to think about it, it can be as small as a snowflake. It could be the size of a snowman. It could be an iceberg. It could be Antarctica. It could be like the North Pole. So the reason that I use that is because it can also shrink. It can melt. So, you know, you're all anxious about something. And I just feel like social media, when used improperly, can grow that that anxiety, because it's like you now have access to information about what's going on in so-and-so's life, what's going on over here. Oh, look at that couple. They're so cute dancing together. Oh, look at this. Oh, so it's an added pressure because it makes kids think that they have to be doing something else. You know, there's a saying called keeping up with the Joneses, and it's like the Joneses are the people next to you, and they're living their life and they're on their path. And if you're busy looking at everybody else around you, you feel like, oh, I have to hurry up. I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to take this math. I have to do that math. I have to apply to this college. I have to wear these clothes. And that's not healthy, because you have to just be you and be happy being you. There's only one you in the world. Just find what your superpower is, what your gift is, and cultivate that and be happy with that. You know, one of the things I hope that kids get from me and who I am is that I am happy with who I am, and I want kids to be happy with who they are. I am I'm here in ASL. I am that bilingual kid who was on scholarship, who, went to this school, that school, whatever. I'm Puerto Rican from the Bronx, I'm very much authentic. I'm who I am. And so I feel like my presence hopefully gives a green light to kids to be who they are. Just be you, love you. Like sometimes I tell kids, when you look at yourself, when you look in the mirror or you're taking a selfie, what are you going to say after? I look cute. I'm this, I'm that. It's all about like positive self-talk, because if you don't talk positively about yourself, like what are you doing? Your body's listening. Your cells are listening. Your body's listening to how you speak about it, how you speak about yourself. Your brain's listening. So, we don't need extra negativity to be coming in. Don't open the door to that.
How would you describe how you foster relationships with faculty and with the administration, and what goes into that?
Okay, now you're asking for the tough stuff. So with my colleagues, I've been a classroom teacher. It is difficult and challenging in that trying to convey information, and try to make sure that kids are getting it. So I appreciate the level of integrity and these kids, you guys, I've said this a few times this week. I think because I've been talking to seniors. You guys are really smart kids. Everyone is born with a capacity for intelligence, and then you get smarter. You can get smarter. Like everybody can get smarter. You get smarter depending on your environment. And you guys are all really smart kids, and I have to attribute that to my colleagues. They are brilliant teachers. I have worked with in many different schools. I've worked with many different people. I can see how you guys are so smart, because the teachers here are, besides being brilliant, they are also very kind and accommodating and make sure that you learn. So it's easy for me to foster like a relationship because they're so dedicated to their craft, and me as a learning support teacher, I'm here to help my colleagues understand, these are different kind of learners, and help support in that area. And I have to say, every teacher that I've interacted with about any topic for a different kind of learner, they've always been very receptive, very open to making adjustments, and so it's easy to interact with my colleagues.
Do you have any final words, any final thoughts that you want to sort of share?
Final words. I see you, kids. I see you. I may not know all your names, but I see you, and I am always going to be, my door is always going to be open. You are welcome to come to Grand Central Station, and yeah, I'm here for you if you need me.